Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. Okay. In this photo, you're in the nice sun. You're with I'm assuming this is you a bit of foreshadowing from before, but you're
Yes.
it's a close portrait. It's a selfie because I can see your arm kind
Yep.
of reaching forward. You've got a rock climbing helmet on. You've got your sunglasses. It's sunny. It's beautiful. And you've got a German Shepherd. And I could see on her muzzle that there's a bit of the gray there. So I could just see the hint of somebody's head behind you. There's the rock face on the left. You're on a kind of cleared ground, and a little farther off in the distance, you can see a bit of a hill with some trees. It's very arid, and a woman and her dog. What's your dog's name?
Sissy, little sister.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, as somebody who's had six dogs in his house, and they're essentially hitting old age, and we outlive our dogs, which is it's very intense, right? And the companionship of your pet, of your dog is really intense because it's a very pure kind of connection. It's very emotional. And then we see our dogs from pups. They go through their whatever life, adulthood, and they become seniors, and then they start losing their health and their mobility and all this stuff, and it's very tough. So after I've just dumped all this on your shoulders, why did you put this absolutely beautiful photo of you and Sissy on as in your series?
Well, obviously, anyone who owns a dog knows why there's a dog selfie in there, right? Like, there's just because we love our dogs, and we just believe that our dog is the most beautiful and adorable dog there is, and everyone wants to see photos of them. And so, my dog is the most beautiful, adorable dog there is, and everyone's, obviously. No, well, really, because Sissy has been the one single tether that has been consistent throughout my adult life.
Yeah.
I got that dog off of Craigslist out of somebody's backyard when I was 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Wow.
And she has been with me through the beginning and end of my marriage, through the death of a parent, through every vehicle I have owned as an adult, through every apartment I have lived in. And she has been the one thing that has been consistently there. And just as people are sentimental about things that bring them, that are a tether to the past.
Sure.
She is very much my living tether.
Yeah.
And she is a senior lady. She's my only child, and she's a first world doggy. So she gets the best possible medical care. She's like, we're gonna keep that dog up and running for as long as we possibly can. But sort of to your point, all things in life are passing to some degree.
Sure,
and there's actually, if you notice the tank top, I've got a little Buddhist on the tank top, and that one actually says, "Don't hate, meditate." Right?
Yeah, right.
And as much as that's a bit of a joke, I am a practicing Buddhist. I practice Zen Buddhism.
Okay.
And so there is an element of, in Buddhism, they really teach you that attachment is the heart of all suffering.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
Because everything in life is temporary.
Yep.
And when you create attachments with things, you're just setting yourself up for the pain of detachment, right? Which is part of the reason why I like Buddhist monks, they don't own anything, and all these things. But the truth of the matter is that the pain of loss is worth it when you have an attachment that gives you so much, right? So yes, I have told all of my friends and everyone who knows me, because honestly, the dog has predated most of my friendships and my relationships, outside of my mom and my sister at this point,
Mm-hmm.
And, I tell everyone this is my senior dog, FYI, when she leaves me, I'm going to be a puddle on the floor. I will be a total disaster.
No, a mess for sure.
Yes.
For sure. No, look,
but that's, that's the price of love, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So again, this isn't an interview. It's more about the exchange of nurturing and feeding each other, right? So right now, one of my dogs is undergoing chemotherapy, and in our house, we are making the tough decision of quality of life, in which, okay, we give him the chemo, it wipes out his white blood cells. He gets sepsis, so we have to give him the antibiotics, and then you're looking at the whole, okay, the back and forth. And somebody who doesn't have a dog will be like, come on, like, who cares, whatever. But it strips down, in a way, the relationship is really stripped down, because it's, you project your feelings onto this being that is clearly a being, clearly sentient, clearly within the world and understanding the world with its own, his or her own intelligence and sentience. And you learn from each other. You're obviously getting so much from Sissy as she's getting from you. Like, you know what I mean? Like the companionship, it goes both ways.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yes, you will be a mess. And I was born into a very Jewish household, and but I say that the most Jewish thing to do is to become an atheist. And the most, yeah, for sure. Because if you are to question authority and to question the world and to be part of the world, then of course you'd be like, hey, wait a second, why would I separate myself? And Buddhism. So I understand you. I understand how you're making sense of the world. Okay.
Yes.
Now, somebody who's listening to us and is listening to you, what would you say to them for it to make sense in their life? Just as you find meaning from Sissy and from Buddhism and being outside and connecting to the biosphere, how do you make that present for somebody else who'll be like, what are you talking about?
I would really frame that as developing the ability of living beyond yourself, right? That, sure, I go through this world in my individual existence as Samantha Joule Fow, and I interact with people in this body, which has a direct identity that has many unique and valuable perspectives and all of that. And because that is my experience, and likewise, you have that same autonomous experience, and everyone has that same autonomous experience, it's so easy to feel isolated.
Okay.
Right? Especially this day and age,
Right.
Especially, like literally isolation is, a part of our lifestyle. And I think that it's really easy to kind of spiral down into loneliness and sadness and all of that, because, from an individual point of view, how much impact can one person really have, right? How much loss can one person really suffer?
Sure.
It can certainly be overwhelming. And, certainly through my extensive self-help journey, because as you said, yes, it did take me many years to recover.
Sure.
It was a lot of treatment, right?
Yeah,
and work to kind of overcome the impacts of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a big part of it, is that understanding that, we live in a big wide world full of beautiful people and beautiful experiences. And as much as we have some degree of control over, okay, I want this and I don't want that, or I want to associate with myself with this or not that, or I want a dog or I want a cat or I want a kid or I don't want anything.
Mm-hmm.
Our control has limits.
Yep.
Right? Eventually you do get up against the wall of your bubble, where no matter how much you try or spend or push or anything you do, it's you can't impact the situation.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Death is one of those absolutes.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of people out there that are getting their pets cloned and trying to overcome, right?
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that it's something that exists beyond your realm of control. And there is something so beautiful about just accepting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things about meditation, right? That's really what you're doing in a moment of meditation, is that you are in your experience,
right,
not in your head. Right.
Okay. I know to keep things moving, I should go on to the next image, but I want to say, what can you connect between meditation, how Sissy sees the world, and what it's like to rock climb? Is there a connection?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So rock climbing was, I got into meditation through lots of things, but mostly through physical practice, right? Like, a lot of people, I think, struggle to rest their minds.
Mm-hmm.
And so when your body is active, you're distracted. And so like,
Sure.
it was a little bit easier for me to get into it, while I was doing some sort of like physical practice. And rock climbing was the first thing that I discovered where it was something that required absolute focus.
Right.
You cannot be distracted in that moment. You must focus 100% on what you are doing, or else you will actually fall, right?
Mm-hmm,
like you will, it's dangerous.
Yep.
And there is a lot, that's a substantial meditative training experience, right? Like, no matter what's bugging you today, no matter what weird thoughts are going through your head, you really have no choice but to put them out, because you have a challenge in front of you to scale a mountain, scale a rock, and gravity is working against you. And again, these are things that, right, you can't do anything about that, right? So you have to focus on what you're doing. And in terms of, so rock climbing has been a big part of my meditation practice, and it continues to be, like, as is dance, and as is yoga, and like, all sorts of like physical movement practices.
Nice.
And I think that, in terms of connecting it back to Sissy, this is another reason why I love animals so much, is because animals always live in the moment.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like, sure, they also experience trauma, and they carry things, like through their lives that are, are impacted, from the past. But for the most part, their awareness is in that present moment. Sissy doesn't know, right, that she's 13 years old, right? Like she just knows that she wakes up every morning and she likes her breakfast, and she likes to lay out in the sunshine, and
nice.
she likes her mom.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. So it's like, instead of like, focusing on all the things that could be running through our minds, like associated with like, like all of the many things that are heavy about living, what's going on right now in this moment. In this moment, I'm having a lovely conversation with you, right? And my lovely dog is resting, right?
Nice.
As are your pets, right? So all's good with the world, right?
Yes. What a beautiful way to transition to the next photograph. Shall we?
Yes. Boom. Speaking of physical movement practice.
So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw.